Hey guys, Casey here, Lions Den Investments and Reviews. Welcome back to the channel. For all my Lions out there, don't know if you guys saw the news today, but SEC has not officially approved an ETF yet, but we are getting very, very close now. And I don't know if you guys heard the news, but the SEC is talking about launching a futures ETF for Bitcoin over the next coming weeks, possibly even months. Um, but the bigger question here is is this going to be released on the Nasdaq before the bull run is over, or are they going to release this Bitcoin ETF, come like January timeframe during the new year, and at the peak of the Bitcoin market? Because keep in mind, guys, if you were part of the bull market back in 2017, okay, at the peak when Bitcoin hit like $20,000, we had a futures market that was created by the institutional investors and bankers. And because of that, Bitcoin ended up crashing in price. So you want to keep that in mind moving forward, okay? Because right now we're looking really, really good on the charts. As you can see, I've got a weekly chart up here on Bitcoin right now from late September to now. Okay, so we're only talking about half a month, not even a full month yet, but we jumped $20,000 in price so far. So this is extremely bullish, hyper parabolic type prices coming in on the crypto market right now. And then we've got this news that just broke over here on the Nasdaq, which is giving hints at listing an ETF that may soon be approved by the SEC. I'll get into that here in a minute, but I just want to show you the weekly chart on Bitcoin real quick because, guys, again, this is why I pay attention to Fibonacci levels, because I just want to show you something here real quick. Okay, we got a 382 and a 618. Those are two major fib levels to look for when it comes to price reactions. Okay, so if we go up here, oh, I'm sorry, if we take the fib chart, fib retracement, and we just go down like that to the very bottom, you will see that we've got the 382 level right here, which is a major reaction level. And as you can see, the price came up and it bounced down off the 382, and then we shot up, and you got the 618 level right here. Okay, get the 618 right there. We blew right past the 618, and we are just now getting ready to hit all-time new highs on Bitcoin. The all-time high here is about $64,000, right? So that's the only resistance that is standing in the way right now. And actually, let me go ahead and throw that back up for you, because I want to show you something else too as far as targets. Here we go. Let's do this. We're going to go down here, and I'm going to show you the trend-based Fibonacci. So we'll go from here to the top and then back down. Okay, lay that out right there. And this is how you get a target on where Bitcoin is heading as far as price. So we bounced off the 618 on the price from the very peak coming down, which I showed you already. That was a major reaction level. We blew right past that. The only thing standing in our way is resistance here at 64,000. And then from there, you got on the retracement targets, you'd have a 618 up here at 67,970, 75 bucks, 67,980, somewhere around in there. Then you'd have a 0.786 at $77,744. So those will be some of my next targets that I'll be looking at if we break resistance right here on the 64,000. Quite frankly, I think Bitcoin could get to, on this run up here, it wouldn't be surprising to see it hit like 75,000, 77,000, kind of where I drew that out there on the 0.786. But that's just the technical analysis right now for Bitcoin. Ethereum, we've got, if we scroll into a daily chart here, you can see right now we have an upward channel going. Okay, We've got all-time highs up here at $39,045. Actually, if we go back a little bit further, the all-time high was right there. If we count the wick, we're looking at $4,300, $4,500. But I would say our short-term resistance right now is at $3,940. So what we need to do, we've got an upward wedge going here on Ethereum. All we have to do is close above this upward wedge, like this upward resistance line on the channel. You can call it a wedge as well, an ascending wedge. But if we close above that and we can flip this resistance here at $3,945 into support, you're going to be looking at prices going back up here to all-time highs where we were back, say, like early May. Okay, and then from there, it's off to the races. Again, though, if we look at the fib charts, okay, if we just do a trend short term, we can go up here and then come back down, hit the bottom. Okay, short term price movement after we break resistance up here, I would say, 0.618 at 4,163, you break that, you're going to 4,500, and that would be short term. So those would be my next two targets, 41.54 and then 4,550. That's after we break resistance down here at 3,945. So that would be my next two targets to look for short term. Long term, like over the next 2 or 3 months, I expect the prices to go much, much higher than that. But those are the two main tokens I wanted to focus on because they have the most dominance in the market, obviously. So that takes me to the next piece here, which is after technical analysis, looking at the ETFs. And guys, I wanted to focus on the ETFs as soon as I start hearing about it because, again, if you go back and you watch one of my previous videos, I'll leave a link up here somewhere where you can check that out. But I was talking about the plan that these, the big money and the big institutions and banks, the plan that they have in place for liquidating massive profits throughout this entire wealth cycle on Bitcoin. And the only way they're going to be able to do that really is to get something like an ETF approved. And I was also talking about, the debt ceiling deadline with Janet Yellen, what she was talking about. They were pointing towards October 18th being the deadline. And then they went in and we covered the ETF process and what they were doing with the futures ETF. So now we've got breaking news here that the NASDAQ is hinting at listings, from the SEC that they may soon approve an ETF application from Valkyrie. And Valkyrie was one of them that we were talking about in the previous video. So what they're saying here is NASDAQ's Vice President of Listing Qualifications, I can't even pronounce this guy's name, Ian Choi or something like that, says shares of Valkyrie's Bitcoin ETF have been certified for listing on the exchange. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, may soon approve an application from crypto asset manager Valkyrie for a Bitcoin exchange-traded fund or ETF with shares to be listed on the NASDAQ stock market. According to an October 15th notice from the SEC, the agency has accepted the registration request for shares of Valkyrie's Bitcoin strategy ETF for listing on NASDAQ. In its August 11th prospectus with the SEC, guys, a prospectus is basically where they give a description of what the stock is going to do or the ETF, how it's going to track performance, that kind of stuff. So the prospectus was granted by the SEC on August 11th. Valkyrie said its Bitcoin strategy ETF would offer indirect exposure to the crypto asset. So this is indirect. It's not direct. It's not buying the physically backed Bitcoin that we had talked about in an ETF. Okay, so it's indirect exposure, and it's going to give you exposure through crypto assets that are cash settled futures contracts. The contracts will be purchased using a Cayman Islands based subsidiary wholly owned by the fund with exchanges registered with the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission. The deadline for the SEC to officially approve Valkyrie's ETF application is on October 25th. But this could be extended to December timeframe too. And December 8th was the actual deadline in my last video. If you go back and watch that, not my last video, but probably about 3 videos ago. Again, I'll leave a link somewhere up here or in the description below where you can go watch that. But I gave the dates. December 8th was the date for Valkyrie as far as the deadline. So, very interesting news. I know a lot of people right now are coming out and saying that it actually has, in fact, been approved. The only article I could find on that, guys, to see if we had an official confirmation of approval was right here. Okay, this is from Coindesk. SEC approves Bitcoin ETF, opening crypto to wider investor base. ProShares is set to launch trading of its Bitcoin futures ETF next week. Okay, now if you read into it, they go in here and they talk about the Securities and Exchange Commission greenlighted Bitcoin futures ETFs in a first for the industry on Friday after regulators, 5 commissioners, met on the issue. ProShares, which filed for its Bitcoin strategy ETF this past summer, may be the first to launch next week. The company filed a post-effective amended prospectus on October 15th, stating its filing is expected to launch on Monday, October 18th, through the fund, though the fund may not begin trading immediately, okay? Now, this fund that they're talking about here, I'm trying to figure out what the name of it is, so I'll continue reading here in a minute. But it's ProShares, okay, and it's a Bitcoin strategy ETF. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be the Valkyrie ETF that they're talking about in all these other articles. But again, you guys, they're talking about October 18th, which was that deadline that I kept telling you about that Janet Yellen had for the debt ceiling. And again, like I've been saying, these guys need a way to dump their bags and hand them over to the sellers. And the best way to do that and get the traditional markets involved is to get an ETF approved. All right. So proponents of a Bitcoin ETF believe the product will be more widely accessible for individuals interested in Bitcoin than the actual cryptocurrency by giving investors a regulated alternative to the underlying digital asset. So that's what I'm talking about here, okay? The first product will track Bitcoin futures rather than the price of Bitcoin directly. However, SEC Chair Gary Gensler indicated he believes future-based products might provide stronger investor protections due to the laws under which they operate. Okay? Needless to say, it's an encouraging sign like what they're saying here. But, if we go to the next article, they go in Eric Balchunas, okay? He posted earlier and said, just in, Bitcoin futures ETF said not to face any opposition at SEC, according to multiple sources confirming this. Aside, I'm hearing the same thing, he said. Pretty much done deal. Expect launches next week. Here he left this here. Bitcoin futures ETF said not to face SEC opposition at deadline. Cutoff for action on ProShares Invesco filings is next week. Tactic approval is seen after an almost decade-long push. So I kept telling you back in 2017 they were trying to push through an ETF through the twin brothers. What are their names? The Winklevoss twins. Okay, they had an ETF they were trying to push through, and it kept getting rejected. So now we're here, okay, and Gary Gensler here has voiced favor for funds based on CME trade of Bitcoin futures filed under a 1940s law, adding more weight to the potential of a long-awaited approval. Deadlines for ETF applications from VanEck and Valkyrie are also approaching on October 25th, so there could be a slew of them hitting exchanges over the next couple of weeks. So let's go back over here. That brings me to this last piece where they're talking about Coinbase unveiling its digital asset policy proposal to spark conversation around comprehensive crypto regulation. Um, this is big news because not only do you have the ETFs coming out, but now you've got one of the largest crypto exchanges on the market coming in, and they're willing to help out for the crypto industry. One of the crypto's industry's major players being Coinbase, they're trying to seek to boost the public debate on how to best fit digital assets into the regulatory parameters. Okay, so they've written up documents, and they're presented in the proposal as a product of dozens of meetings with industry participants, policymakers, crypto innovators, and academics that the company's representatives have held in the last several weeks. So they presented the proposal, and then the firm's intention is for the proposal to animate an open and constructive discussion regarding the role of digital assets in our shared economic future and offer good faith suggestions on what a sensible approach to crypto regulation might look like. So what they're doing is they're coming up with a framework to help the SEC and financial regulators come up with a better way to regulate, and then as well as benefit investors and the entire market for innovation instead of stifling it and destroying it. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think this ETF will hit the markets and be listed on Nasdaq before the bull run's over, or after the bull run's over? Because quite frankly, if this thing is released before the bull run's over, you're going to see massive parabolic prices, over the next 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, especially when it hits the market. But on top of that, you want to be careful too, and really watch to see when this ETF hits the market, because when it does, you're probably going to have about maybe 3 to 4 weeks of parabolic moves up in prices, and then you're going to get it come crashing down because, guys, these ETFs, they're used to manipulate the markets and suppress prices. Okay, just look at the paper gold market and the paper silver market on Nasdaq, SLV, and GLD. Those are massively manipulated through these ETFs, and they're trying to do the same thing with Bitcoin, but they're not there yet. Okay, we're not to mass adoption yet. This is just a way for them to basically create a vacuum in the market of buyers to come in who they can sell to, so they can take their profits, and then the markets are going to come down. They'll manipulate that through the futures market, especially through an ETF like this, and then you'll get another well cycle here probably 4 years from now. But I don't know how much of a free market that's going to be, given that you have ETFs out here now where they can manipulate the price and suppress prices like they are doing with silver and gold. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are on that, because again, when this ETF hits the market, you're probably going to have about 3 or 4 weeks after that. And there are some saying here that they don't see this ETF actually being pushed through and listed on the NASDAQ until the beginning of the new year. We'll just have to wait and see, but it's very bullish news. If you guys like what you're hearing, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Over here, like I said, we cover the fundamentals, we go through the technical analysis, we cover major breaking news such as this, because again, you don't want to be caught with your pants down. All right, you don't want to buy into this cycle at the very, very top, and we are approaching that really, really quick. But with that said, if you guys hear any more FUD coming out, or they're trying to fearmonger with the traditional economy and inflation and stuff like that, try not to pay too much attention to that right now, because that's all part of an engineered plan as well. And I explain and give you my take on that over the last few videos on what I think they're doing, because at the end of the day, guys, you got to take a step back and think like a banker. These people they're evil, okay? They're a necessary evil, and they're sinister, and they're going to try to take you for everything you're worth, and they think you're stupid. So you have to pay attention to them, and one way they do it is through stuff like this. where they get an ETF approved and everybody's gung-ho about it. You get a lot of hype, you get a lot of FOMO coming in, people coming in from traditional markets, buying the top of the wealth cycle, and don't let them fool you because they're going to pull the rug right out from underneath you. But with that said, guys, have no fear right now. We are extremely bullish. We're going into parabolic moves over the next 2 or 3 months, and it's going to be very exciting to see where we end up, okay? But with that said, I'm done talking. You guys have a good night, and as usual, fear nothing, my friends.